Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Logan Blackman Show podcast. I hope you all are having a fantastic week up to this point. I hope you all are having a fantastic day as well, and I hope you all are ready to get learned up today on this new edition of the Logan Blackman Show. We are 9 days away, ladies and gentlemen, from the 2025 NFL Draft. That is an insane feeling, and as expected, as every year tends to do, the more we go on, the crazier and crazier the whole lying season gets. Or like, what reports are coming out that are real? Like, oh, this team's now thinking of this player, when it was never an option to begin with. It was like, oh, where did this come from? Like, the one I've seen a lot recently is the Jacksonville Jaguars taking Ashton Jeanty at 5th overall. That is one I've seen quite a bit recently. And they're going from the mindset of the Jaguars' rush offense was not great last year, and I'm going to put a lot of that down to Travis Etienne taking a massive dip. Because remember the year before, he was a very good running back, very solid running back, and taking Jeanty at 5, though I know Etienne's in the final year of his contract, or is in a contract year or whatever, but I just don't see a reality where the Jaguars, who have needs along the offensive line and the defensive line, which James Gladstone, the GM, who they just brought in this offseason, has discussed improving upon this offseason. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm not saying that. But at this point in time, it seems very unlikely that that would be a scenario that would take place at this point in time in the draft. Like, it's just really funny that kind of stuff starts kicking off the week before the draft. We have not heard an inkling of the Jaguars taking Ashton Jeanty with the 5th overall pick once. And then within the past, I want to say 3 days, I've seen more and more of that. And I don't think it's going to happen personally. I still think it's one of Armin Membo or Mason Graham, or Will Campbell. I think it'll be one of those 3 guys. I don't know if Will Campbell will be there at this point in time, given the most recent reports, but it's still a crazy time. And obviously, we'll talk about the NFL Draft in a little bit, but before we get into anything else, let's go over the housekeeping items first. Make sure to follow the Logan Blackman Show on every single form of social media: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and of course, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can find me on Twitter at Logan_Blackman. Instagram account's Blackman Logan. The show's Instagram account is The Logan Blackman Show. Facebook and YouTube, search Logan Blackman Show. Make sure you like and follow the Facebook page and subscribe to the YouTube video. You can check out our latest video on the Logan Blackman Show YouTube channel. It is going over the best and the worst players taken with each top 10 selection over the past decade. So number 1 pick, who the best and worst of that pick is in the last decade. 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. Make sure to go check out that video, and also make sure to check out Mock Draft 3.0 on the LoganBlackmanShow.com. You can also check out other blog posts there. We'll have a blog post coming out for you either today or Thursday. I'm not 100% sure when it's going to be out 100%, because I might still do a little tweaking to it, so we'll have to wait and see on that front, but we'll discuss it here on today's episode. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the most important thing, make sure to follow and or subscribe to the Logan Blackman Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Make sure to give a rating out of 5 stars on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Make sure you give a description down below why you feel the way you do. And on YouTube, make sure you give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel. You can also make sure to check out the Believe in Iowa podcast as well on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, this is a crazy time in this offseason. Like, and I'm not just saying for the NFL, because the NFL is its own thing right at this point in time. We're used to that at this point in time. We are used to the NFL being crazier and crazier as the NFL draft approaches, because now we're going to get like trade candidate ideas. We're going to get players sneaking up into spots where we never thought they would be. We have news about teams reportedly zeroing in on certain players, or players that, these teams aren't really sold on them, which we get every single year, just to the hope that a player falls right into their lap. But one thing we're not really used to at this point in time is the craziest at this point of the year in regards to college football. Because right now we are in the midst of one of the more intriguing stories. Is recent memory, is that too much of a reach to say? Is recent memory the best way I can describe this? I don't know if I'm overselling it a little bit. I don't really think I am. But Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee starting quarterback, who ironically, it was funny that we brought up the Believe in Iowa podcast. Ironically, his first start in college was against Iowa, and I believe the Citrus Bowl, I can't remember what bowl it was where Iowa and Tennessee played. Tennessee ended up winning the game. It wasn't a very fun game, if I remember correctly, but I do remember doing a show right afterwards and talking about his last name, Nico Iamaleava. And the whole time on social media and stuff like that, oh, he's going to leave to the NIL. He's going to leave. He's going to leave. I mean, it's literally in his last name. It is right there that he is going to leave. Iamaleava. That is how you say that he is gone. Now, last year was his first year as the starter. And a lot of people, including myself, had fairly high hopes for him going into the season. I mean, we saw what Joe Milton could do in this offense. No, it was very inconsistent. We saw the peaks of what he could do. We saw what Hendon Hooker could do in this offense. Now, Josh Heupel has a 5-star quarterback that he recruited in this offense. A guy that learned under Joe Milton, a guy who had 6 years of college football experience, who had all the tools in the world. Nico was immensely talented coming out of high school. Like, everybody looked at Nico and were like, oh, this is the guy to truly unlock Tennessee's offense. Like, Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton, those were fine guys. Like, Hendon Hooker, before he tore his ACL, was one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. Like, that was a very well reserved opinion at that point in time. And Nico was the guy that could take Tennessee to that next step. Because it was always like, Tennessee's just right there. Josh Heupel's got a good thing going. They just need a quarterback to get them over that hump. And Joe Milton wasn't that guy. And Nico comes in with the hype, the 5-star, and all that stuff. And he just has a very average season. Nothing terrible. I mean, I guess if you want to put it in the context of like, well, if you're looking at what you were expecting him going in and what he had, this is not what anybody was expecting going into the year. I don't think a lot of people, from a guy of his stature and his level of talent, would expect him to have 19 touchdowns and 5 interceptions with 2,600 yards passing. I don't think that was really something a lot of people were expecting to see this season. Like, out of all the players Tennessee has had at quarterback, why was he the one that wasn't really the guy that was pushing for it? Yes, I know they had Dylan Sampson at running back and stuff to take some of the burden off of him, but not one time, or actually, I take that back. One time this year, he had a game where he passed for over 300 yards. One time. You want to know when that game came? That was against Chattanooga in the Duke's Mayo Classic where Tennessee won 69-3. That was the only game in Tennessee's 13-game season, because remember, they got their cheeks clapped against Ohio State in the playoff. That was the only time he had over 300 yards passing. And it was one of only 3 times throughout the course of the season where he had 3 or more touchdowns in a game. You want to, and I'm just talking about passing touchdowns here, because he did have 3 total touchdowns against NC State, but that's a whole nother thing. But the other games, besides Chattanooga, where he had 3 or more touchdowns, were against UTEP, where he had 4, and Vanderbilt. I know Vanderbilt was a better team this year than what we've seen, or what we know of Vanderbilt to be in years past, where they're the doorstep of college football. Right now, because of Iowa State and Indiana's seasons this last year, they are the only team out of the Power 4 conferences. The Pac-12 is still a thing. We can say Power 5. We'll say it for Power 5 just for fun. Out of the Power 5 conferences that does not have a 10-win season to their name. And again, I don't care if Vanderbilt was having a season better than advertised. It's still Vanderbilt. You're still Tennessee. That's it right there. That's why the Alabama game was so crazy when Vanderbilt beat Alabama. Again, it has nothing to do with how good Vanderbilt is. It's the fact that we're literally saying Vanderbilt beat Alabama. That is one of the craziest results I've ever, following the Georgia game. And the performance that Jalen Milroe put out in that Georgia game, to follow that up with the Vanderbilt game, yes, I understand, like, there's going to be, like, a fall a little bit. There's going to be a little bit of a drop-off. There's a lot of emotion going into that game against Georgia. You're hosting them and all that stuff. They're the reigning national champions. Like, that you want to put on a big-time performance against them. Or no, they're not the reigning national champions. What am I talking about? They didn't win the national championship the year before. Who won the national championship? Michigan won the national championship. They didn't even make the playoff. Alabama made the playoff. What am I talking about? What the hell am I talking? But you still want to put on a big performance. And they did. So the drop-off after that was expected, but to lose to Vanderbilt is not what anybody thought. So in Nico this season, so in those 3 games, against Chattanooga, Vanderbilt, and UTEP, he totaled 11 touchdowns. So 11 of his 19 touchdowns came against Chattanooga, UTEP, and Vanderbilt. He threw no touchdowns against Arkansas, who notoriously did not have a great secondary this past year, and where Nico famously ran out of bounds as time expired to lose that game at Arkansas. He threw no touchdowns against Florida in a game they went to overtime against a team that had a true freshman quarterback because their starter, I guess rotational starter, Graham Mertz, tore his ACL in that game celebrating. And then he threw 0 touchdowns against Georgia. He didn't have any interceptions in that game, so I guess that's positive, but yeah. And then against Alabama, he had 1 passing touchdown, 14 completions on 27 attempts. Like, this season for Nico was nowhere near. I'm not even going to go in to the Ohio State game where he did the LeBron James silencer in the end zone going into halftime when they're down by more than 2 scores. That's not something you really should do when you're on the road. That game, the Ohio State-Tennessee game, is one of the most laughable games that I can remember in recent history, just because of the hype building in from the Tennessee supporters and their own players and coaching staff and all that stuff. Like, they went into that game saying they were going to turn the horseshoe into Neyland North. They went into the game, the Tennessee players, with their shirts off and instantly ran to the heated benches right after they did the whole PR Instagram picture type thing. Like, they were thinking of their captions. Like, that was what's going on in their headphones. Their headphones were saying all the different Instagram captions that they could have under those pictures because of how cool they are, running into the horseshoe with their shirts off, beating Ohio State. Like the whole Mike McDaniel thing. Mike McDaniel, down in Miami. I wish it were colder. Like, that whole bullshit. And guess what? The Dolphins, when it's below freezing, they don't do anything. Like, there's no such, as Marcus Freeman said this past year, there's no such thing as a cold, tough guy. They don't exist. No one wants to be cold. There's no cool thing about being cold. You're not tough because you're cold. And Tennessee and the Miami Dolphins are prime examples of that because every single time it's cold, they get their cheeks clapped. And Ohio State beat the ever-living shit out of Tennessee 42-17. So this season for Tennessee was not really what anybody was expecting. You had like a giant explosion of yards against Kent State. You had 3 straight weeks to start the year where you won 69-3, 51-10, and 71-0 against Chattanooga, NC State, and Kent State. Like, those were fun games you had there. After that, apart from the games against Vanderbilt and Utah, you scored over 30 points one time, and that was against Mississippi State. One time. And that was against Mississippi State, who were garbage this year. And that's being kind to them this year. That's actually insulting the garbage to say they're comparable to Mississippi State. Like, Tennessee was, the Tennessee that we used to see growing up, where Tennessee's ranked in the top 10, and then all of a sudden, they end up 7-5. It happens every single year. And yes, I know Tennessee didn't finish 7-5 this year. They finished 10-3, which is a good record. That is a good record. It's nothing to be sniffed at, a 10-3 record. But given the talent that this team possesses, the fact that you scored over 30 points one time against teams discounting, UTEP, Vanderbilt, Chattanooga, Kent State, like, apart from those games, and you can go, well, Logan, that's like half the schedule right there. Cool. You should score over 30 in those games. You should score over 30 against Kentucky. You should score over 30 against this Florida team. You should score over 30 against this Arkansas team. You should score over 30 against Oklahoma. You should have scored 30 in damn near every single game apart from Florida or Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State. Those are the only games that I can accept that. All the other games, Tennessee should realistically be scoring 30 points in every single game they play this year. They should have, and they didn't. And Nico was not very good for the levels that we were expecting of him going into the season. So what happens this offseason? What is the first thing we hear this offseason? Nico did not attend Tennessee spring practice today. He's been in conversation with Tennessee about a new contract. The no-show of practice came as a surprise. Apparently, there was a contingent of Tennessee players that were going to sit out the game against Ohio State. And to be honest, you might as well have, because after that game, I wouldn't really want to say I played in that game either. I would like to say that it was a bum game, like the Florida State-Georgia game in the Orange Bowl, like one of those situations. Like, I would like my backups to play in that game, so it kind of just covers up the fact that we got blasted by 60 points in a bowl game. Like, you should have lost by more points than what you did. The fact that you did the silencer celebration, that was really cool. And if you came back, all the Instagram edits were going to be so sick. Four touchdowns this year. Oh, wait, no, sorry. 4 of his 9 passing touchdowns in the SEC came against Vanderbilt. He had 9 passing touchdowns in SEC play this year. And he's trying to negotiate a contract here, which is still hilarious that it's so weird. It's the state of college football. And I'll say this. I'm not going to get mad at him trying to get money. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying, oh, this is the worst thing to ever happen here. We need to go back to where they're not making money. Okay, again, they were always making money. They always were. Now we know about it, so now it's the problem. You ever heard of the bagmen down in the SEC? Like Jimbo Fisher and Lane Kiffin pretty much said that at their opening press conference when this whole thing got passed. So everybody did it. If you got caught, you were stupid. Like, everybody does it. It's just the nature of the beast, but now we know about it. But the word contract, that's where it kind of like loses me a little bit. That makes it sound weird. Like, the money, go and get your money. I don't care. Because if I was in that situation, I'm not saying I would sit out practices and negotiate a contract, but I'd try to get money too. Like Jordan Addison, when he was at Pitt, he got a bag from the USC boosters, and they unretired Carson Palmer's number to get him to go to USC. Like, you're stupid if you don't take that offer. Go ahead and take it. Get your money. You're going to the NFL next year anyways. Just go do it. It doesn't matter. I know there's the whole loyalty in college football, and I understand that. Again, it'd be hard to say. It's just a whole unprecedented level of money that we're seeing influx in the college football and these players anyways that we're getting told about now. But to go off the season that you had and then demanding that from what the reports were, and I don't know what is real and what is not with this, but Nico Reps wanted to see his NIL deal up to $4 million range before winter portal closed. Tennessee officials said they weren't going to bleed. Apparently his NIL valuation was 2.5 or something like that to go up to 4. So raise it 1.5 million after coming off a season where you had 19 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And your last game that you played, you had no passing touchdowns and a couple rushing touchdowns in an Ohio State game where you got absolutely annihilated. That's the last thing people remember you for. And to go into that, Tennessee fans, that's the last thing they remember you for. And then to go in the offseason and try to puff up your chest and say, I want $4 million, that's crazy. That is crazy. Like, and I've seen the whole thing about, like, coaches can leave, come and go as long as they please. And yeah, I think that's stupid. I think it's the same thing. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, there's different levels to this thing. No, coaches are held, they should be held to the same thing. If the player's committed, the coach got to stay committed. But, could you imagine if Mike Norvell at Florida State went to the people at Florida State and demanded a pay raise after finishing 2-10 this past year? The year after they were a game away from going to the college football playoff? That's what this is. Could you imagine them doing that? No, that's stupid. Why would you go to ask Tennessee that when you did nothing this year? Like, what the hell is going through the mind here on that? That makes zero sense. Like, you can throw the whole coaches argument around. That does not apply to this situation. That does not apply here. If Nico threw 30 touchdowns and Tennessee did not lose 42-17 in the playoff against Ohio State, and he didn't have 11 touchdowns against, who did we say? Chattanooga, Vanderbilt, and UTEP. If he didn't have those, then yeah, I would perfectly be fine with him trying to get a new NIL evaluation. The problem is you're a 5-star recruit playing for one of the most quarterback-friendly offenses in college football, and you had 19 passing touchdowns, and now you're trying to demand $4 million from the school. Yeah, I don't blame Josh Heupel to say, we're moving on. Because that's stupid. That is ridiculously stupid. Go and get your money. That is fine. But at least have the backing to go, this is what I did. This is why I want this more. This is why I want more money. Prove why you need more money. Because what you did last year is not proving that you deserve more money. That's not how this works. So Josh Heupel was like, okay, yeah, fine, leave. I don't care. Again, Josh Heupel's offense, if we're being 100% transparent here, is really one of the easiest offenses for quarterbacks to work in. It is an insanely quarterback-friendly offense. And you're going to sit here and try to go off what you did last year and say you need a pay raise. Okay. Yeah, good luck with that. And so far this offseason, so he entered the transfer portal. Shocker. I know, crazy move. But he's entered the portal and nobody wants him. Nobody. Like, if you're asking for $4 million and you're at 2.1 to 2.5, somewhere in that category, no one's going to want to sign you. No one's going to want to take that burden on. Like North Carolina was linked in there. Tulane was linked in there. You were the starting quarterback for one of the better teams in the SEC. Coming off a year where you weren't very good given the levels that people think you can get to. Obviously, there's levels. I remember hearing Gilbert Arenas talk about this one time. The worst player that you can think of. So like if you say who's the worst quarterback, well, there's worse quarterbacks than that, if we're being honest. Like the worst quarterback last year in college football was probably Cade McNamara, if we're being 100% honest here. But no, he's not, because there's a fifth stringer somewhere down at, I don't know, New Mexico State that's probably worse than Cade McNamara. But we're not going to say that. There's levels to it. He's not the worst quarterback. I'm not trying to make it sound like he's the worst quarterback in college football. But if you're so hyped coming out and you do that, that's not going to cut it. It's just not. I don't know where the hell he's going to go. I don't. Like, the Colorado said they're good. I saw Deion Sanders literally tweeted it out the other day. I mean, they got Kane Salter and the 5-star that turned 4-star once he came into Colorado. We'll talk about Colorado here in a little bit because I got some crazy with that too. But I just don't get it. I really don't. And the Tennessee starting tight end Ethan Davis posted a thing on his Instagram story, and it was him hugging the guy who's apparently taking the starting job. And I love all the different reactions for this. Like we brought up with the coaches thing before. Like, stop blaming Nico. This is the new college football. And he just lists through all the transfers here. Will Howard transfer, Shedeur Sanders transfer, Cam Ward transfer, Quinn Ewers transfer, Caleb Williams transfer, Jaden Daniels transfer, Bo Nix transfer, Justin Fields transfer, Joe Burrow transfer. Like, throwing Justin Fields and Joe Burrow in that category is pretty ridiculous because Joe Burrow wasn't going to play at Ohio State. Justin Fields was not going to play at Georgia, and he was sitting behind Jake Fromm. So he's not going to play there because frickin' Kirby Smart is a weird addiction to just bang average quarterbacks. Bo Nix was not very good at Auburn. Jane Daniels transferred to a bigger school in Arizona State. If you don't remember, they tore apart his locker when he left and called him trash while they were tearing out his locker. Caleb Williams followed Lincoln Riley to USC. Quinn Ewers was not ever going to play over C.J. Stroud. He just never was. Cam Ward transferred out of Incarnate Word to Washington State, FCS school to Washington State, and then went with his offensive coordinator down to Miami. Shedeur Sanders followed his dad from Jackson State to Colorado. And Will Howard, they brought in frickin' Avery Johnson, who they were really stoked about. I'm not saying it was like a Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning situation, but they were really stoked about Avery Johnson coming in. So they were going to give him the key. So he went up to a bigger school. These are not, just because they transferred does not make it, this is the same thing. No, these transfers are not the same thing as Nico's thing. They're not. How many of those people transferred purely based off of monetary gain? Purely based off that. And out of those people, which one of them transferred from a national power? I guess, again, Justin Fields, Joe Burrow, Ohio State, Georgia. Yes, but neither one of those guys were going to play. Kirby Smart willingly started Jake Fromm over Justin Fields. Because Jake Fromm took him to a national championship as a freshman. He's not going to lose his job. Like, it's one of those things where he's not going to... Justin Fields is better, obviously, but he's also got to take it. Jake Fromm's got to lose it, and Jake Fromm didn't lose it. So he kept the job. Jake Fromm, again, was a freshman when they went to the national championship game. So Justin Fields not going to want to sit behind him for 2 more years, at least. Then Joe Burrow at Ohio State, he just wasn't going to play. They had Dwayne Haskins there. He wasn't going to play. So he went down to LSU, which at the time was considered a quarterback graveyard. I don't remember if you guys remember the insane hype Joe Burrow got when he went down to LSU. Same thing with Jaden Daniels when he transferred to LSU, or Bo Nix up to Oregon. People chased Bo Nix out of Oregon. Everybody was tired of Bo Nix at Oregon. They were like, oh, this dude's freaking awful. These weren't monetary things. Bo Nix also followed, who's the Arizona State head coach? He was the OC with Bo Nix up there. And I think he was there with him at Auburn as well, if I'm not mistaken. Like, these were not just like, oh, I want an NIL evaluation, so now I'm not going to show up, so now I'm going to transfer. No, these are not the same thing. Not every transfer is created equal. It's not. Like, none of those ones are at all similar to what Nico is doing right now at Tennessee. None of those are. And the thing is, regardless of what you like about the situation or don't like about the situation, guess what? Someone needed to do this. This had to happen at some point. Like, I thought it was going to be that stupid Florida kid that gave, like, he was transferring and gave, like, a price for what he was transferring for, the linebacker, whatever position he was. I thought that was the stupidity of the offseason coming to an end, or starting and coming to an end. I didn't think we'd see a guy at an SEC program that made the playoff last year, coming off a not very good season by his standard, that was expected of him, and now we're entering the port. This is not the same as Shedeur transferring from Jackson State to Colorado, which, again, Colorado won 1 game the previous year, and his dad just happened to be the head coach. Like, that's not the same thing by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm intrigued to see where he ends up going. I'm very intrigued to see this. But again, it had to happen at some point in time. It had to happen. It was inevitable that was going to happen. It just was. And there's nothing you could say that would change my mind about that, because this is an untapped thing, unregulated thing in college football. And all new things from time to time are unregulated and free reign and wild, wild west and all that stuff. But, man, I did not think it'd be coming like this. I didn't. From an SEC school, no less. Like, I expect it like, I don't know what is good. Like, Darian Mensah at Tulane or something. He transferred to Duke this offseason. Like, I would have expected that. Like, quarterbacks going from smaller schools to bigger schools happens all the time. And it happened before the NIL situation, too. Like, it just happens. Some quarterbacks are loyal to the soil. Some people want a bigger and better opportunity. Like, it just happens. Like, why wasn't Jake Rudock mentioned on there when he transferred from Iowa to Michigan? That's a pretty sideways move right there. He probably left for the money. Or it's because he got benched and, he wanted to play, and Jim Harbaugh was like, hey, you can play. And he did. He played all right at Michigan. Why did that not get mentioned in there? That's kind of stupid that didn't get mentioned. Or Troy Aikman going from Oklahoma to UCLA. Why is that not mentioned in there? Man, Troy Aikman leaving for all that money. Jeez. Wait, transfers have happened in college football, but not like this. Not like this. And I do think it's funny that Josh Hubbell is like, okay, fine, don't show up. You're not on the team anymore. You're transferring. I think Nico is advised by really stupid people. And I hope he does end up doing well, because he's too damn talented not to. I don't know where that talent will be realized at, because the schools that everybody's linking him to are all backing away. So it's going to be a very interesting time till the season starts, because this is not the time to be transferring. This is not really that time to be doing that. He's basically going to be a freshman on campus walking into the fall. Like, he doesn't even have the spring practice to work in. Brendan Sullivan transferred. Why is no one bringing that conversation up? Or he entered the portal. Couldn't be because he's not going to play. No, it's because of the money as well. I give Brendan Sullivan credit for sticking it out for at least a little bit. I mean, he's going up against a guy who won 2 national championships at South Dakota State. He's not going to play. It's just a simple fact. Hank Brown's going to be the guy I would imagine going to the spring game. Unless Gronowski's ahead of schedule, I haven't heard anything about what the future is in regards to the spring game and everything like that. 'Cause that's next weekend, the 26th. So we'll see. I doubt it, but hey, Hank Brown, maybe he balls out. He's not going to take the starting job, and I'm intrigued to see where Brendan Sullivan goes. Maybe Brendan Sullivan goes down to Tennessee. Maybe that happens. I don't know. Maybe he goes down there. We'll have to wait and see. But again, it had to happen eventually. I did not think it'd be this offseason, but it is it's a crazy time. Crazy time in college football. And it's only going to be crazier. It's only going to be crazier. But speaking of crazy, Colorado officially announced the other day that 12-2, the numbers of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, officially untouchable. Witness Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter have their jersey numbers retired during the spring game on April 19th. So this weekend, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter will have their jersey numbers retired. And this has sparked a lot of debate on social media. I mean, a lot of debate. What is the engagements on this tweet? Let's go to Colorado football's official Twitter. Colorado Buffaloes football. It's got to be the pinned tweet. Oh, no. Still Travis Hunter. Where is this? There it is. Right now, how do you see engaged? This tweet has been interacted with 10.2 million times. It has 24,000 likes, 5,000 retweets, 1.2 thousand bookmarks, and has received 3.6 thousand comments. And they all vary. They all vary from like, why not Shiloh? 3-11 QB record. Get your jersey retired? 12,000 likes on that tweet. They didn't even make the playoffs. This is the level of daddy ball that I didn't believe was achievable. Honestly, hats off to Dion. This is impressively shameful. Here we go. In his 2 years as a starter, the team went 13-12 overall and 1-7 against ranked opponents. They never made the playoff, peaked at 16 in the rankings, and their only bowl appearance was a lopsided loss. While they consistently beat unranked teams by an average of 9.4 points, they were outscored by 11.4 points per game in ranked matchups. He was productive, but the program didn't reach any heights during his time. The resume does not warrant retiring his number. So out of all of that stuff, what did that have to do? You can say I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't really care. What did any of that I just say have to do with Shedeur Sanders? What did any of that have to do with Shedeur Sanders? All of that was team related. 13-12 overall, 1-7 ranked opponents. That has nothing to do with Shedeur Sanders. I shouldn't say nothing. He obviously plays a part in that, but it's not his loss. Wins or losses are not a quarterback stat. I've said that 1,000 times on this show. I've said it 1,000 times. I'm going to say it 1,000 more. Times 1,000. Because I think it's stupid when people bring in wins and losses regards to building or tearing down a quarterback's legacy. 13-12. Do you not remember where this team came from? They were 1-11, and people are like, oh, they turned from 1-11 program to 9 wins or whatever, and be like, what happened in between? Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. They didn't go 9 wins right like that. They didn't completely do a 180, win 8 games from the previous year. No, there had to be a medium period. Colorado went 1-11. 1-11, okay? Just so you guys are aware, there are 12 games in the college football season. They went 1-11. And they went 4-8 the next year, and they went 9-4 this year. That's pretty damn impressive. So the whole 13-12 thing, like how many quarterbacks do you know have been a starting quarterback for a team that went 1-11 and then eventually when they got done were 9-4? How many can you say that about? If anything, that's more of an impressive stat than anything. I would say that's more impressive. But then at the same time as well, the 1-7 against ranked opponents. Yeah, because Colorado's defense was turbo ass. They were outscored 11.44 points per game against ranked matchups. Yeah, because their defense gives up a shit ton of points. We did the same thing with the Caleb Williams thing last year. Do you remember when Caleb Williams lost 10 games as a starter in college? USC and Oklahoma combined 10 losses with Caleb Williams as a starter. The average amount of points they scored was about 42 points per game. But people always want to talk about his record against ranked opponents. If your defense is giving up 40 to 42 points per game in games you lost, that's not on you. They beat Cal last year. This is USC, or 2 years ago, sorry. 50 to 49. They had to score 50 points, halfway to 100, to beat Cal. But that win or loss, if they scored 48 points and lost, then people are going to talk about, oh my God, Caleb Williams just lost to Cal. He still put his offense in a chance to score 48 points, and they lost. So because they lost by 1 point instead of winning by 1 point, that's going to determine how good or bad he is, even though they scored 48 points. How does that make any logical sense here? Like, if he threw 5 interceptions in those games, then yeah, I could see a very good reality on where that's the case. Where you can go, yeah, that's probably his fault. They probably lost. They probably would have won that game had he not thrown 4 interceptions. That would probably be good. Yeah. But you keep going down those team arguments. That doesn't matter in the case of retiring Shedeur Sanders' number. It's an individual thing. It's not a daddy thing. And the person people keep throwing around is Cordell Stewart. I think Cordell Stewart's number should be retired as well. Cordell Stewart was awesome. He's got the greatest nickname of all time, Slash. He's quarterback / running back / receiver / that. Like, that's the greatest nickname of all time in my opinion. The logo, Jerry West, that's a close second. But Slash is my favorite nickname of all time. But this is not a situation like the whole thing about he would be nothing if his last name wasn't Sanders. Like, just sitting there back not thinking that this guy's not a good quarterback is pretty stupid. Like, the level of hate that this gets is kind of crazy. And people keep throwing around like, oh, Florida didn't retire Tebow's number. I don't think Florida retires numbers. Does Florida football retire numbers? Or Marcus Mariota at Oregon? Does Oregon retire football numbers? Like, there's schools that don't do that. USC only retires numbers of Heisman Trophy winners. And that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Travis Hunter's number getting retired? Yeah, that makes sense. But Shedeur Sanders, since he's now been and left Colorado, I'm pretty sure he holds like every single major statistical passing category in Colorado football history for passing yards, passing numbers anyways. Let's look at this. Colorado passing records. Let's look it up. So passing yards, statistical leaders, Colorado. This is everything here. So single season, Shedeur Sanders has the single season record for 4,100 yards. Also, he ranks third in that category as well. In career passing yards, in 2 seasons at Colorado, he ranks 5th all-time in passing yards. Every quarterback above him, which is Liufau from Colorado, obviously, Steven Montez, Cody Hawkins, Joel Klatt. Those are the 4 quarterbacks ahead of him. All 4 of those guys played 4 years in college. Shedeur Sanders was there for 2. The rest of the quarterbacks on this list, Cordell Stewart, Tyler Hansen, Coy Detmer, Mike Machete, John Hessler, all of them apart from Machete played 4 seasons in college as well. And Shedeur Sanders ranked 5th all-time in Colorado passing yards. Single game record. Out of the top 10 in that, Shedeur Sanders' name is listed on here 3 times. He had 510 against TCU, 445 against North Dakota State, and 438 against Oklahoma State. The only other person to have their name on here more than once is Coy Detmer, and he's also on here 3 times. The passing touchdowns record for a career, again, in 2 seasons. Shedeur Sanders holds the Colorado's career record for passing touchdowns with 64. One above Cody Hawkins and Steven Montez. Again, 2 guys that played 4 years in college. He also holds the record for single-season passing touchdowns with 37, which is 9 more than Liufau, in 2014 at 28. Ironically, Shedeur Sanders also ranks 3rd with 27. So that's cool. He also ranks 2nd all-time in Colorado history for most single touchdowns in a single game with 5, and he's on there twice. He's thrown 5 touchdowns a game twice Stanford and Oklahoma State. He's tied with John Hessler, who also did it 5 times, and Coy Detmer did it 5 times. Every single statistical and even if you want to go next place, he's also got 4. He's thrown 4 touchdowns in the game 5 times. 5 times he's done that. The only other quarterback that's done that more than once is Joel Klatt and Mike Machete. Like that's it. So out of the out of the people that have thrown more than 4 touchdowns in a game at Colorado, Shedeur Sanders has done it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Just for context, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait, let's go with other quarterbacks mentioned because I'm counting everybody. There could be 2s here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Shedeur Sanders himself is listening here 7 times. There's 7 other quarterbacks mentioned in that category as well. So if you want to talk about what they did statistically, individually, there is no reason why he shouldn't get his number retired in college. It's not just because of his dad. Because I can tell you this, I watched John Licklider try and play basketball at Iowa. Just because your dad's the coach does not mean you're going to be a good player. Fred Hoiberg didn't even recruit his son. He played at Michigan State. He didn't even go to where his dad went. Connor McCaffrey was average at best at Iowa. That's being really kind of the situation. Cody Hawkins, his dad was the head coach. And he took 4 years to get 7,000 yards. He has less than 400 yards more than Shedeur Sanders. And Cody Hawkins was on some bad Colorado teams. His dad was the head coach there too. So why doesn't Cody Hawkins have his number retired if his dad's the head coach? Why is that not a thing? It has nothing to do with him being the head coach. Shedeur Sanders was arguably the greatest quarterback to ever play for Colorado. In 2 years, how many times did I mention his name in career, single season, and single game categories for passing yards and passing touchdowns? I don't give 2 shits about how many wins Colorado had during that time frame. Because again, when they stepped on campus, they were coming off a 1-win season. So the fact they made it 13 in 2 years is really damn impressive. While shifting conferences at the same time. Which if you look at some of the teams that were supposed to be way better than them that transferred to the Big 12, i.e. Utah and Arizona, what did they do this year? Utah was the runaway favorite to win the Big 12 this year. The runaway favorite. How did they do? They didn't do pretty good, did they? No, they didn't. Colorado was supposed to finish near the bottom with Arizona State. How'd that work out? Arizona State won the damn conference, and Colorado won 9 games. Yes, the bowl game against BYU was not great. Cool. That has nothing to do with anything. And Shedeur Sanders did not have a good game in that bowl game. He threw 2 interceptions. Not very good interceptions either. But don't throw around like their average loss against top 25 opponents was 11 points. I don't care. I do not care. Travis Hunter, that's 100%. That dude was a beast. Travis Hunter, again, I said it during the season, rightful winner of the Heisman Trophy. We've not seen, like people always compare him to Charles Woodson. Compared to Charles Woodson, Travis Hunter had a way better Heisman season. It's not even really close. Like Charles Woodson made that playing 2 ways popular. He didn't play 2 ways like Travis Hunter did. We did the statistical comparisons between the two. Travis Hunter, reminder, finished last season with 1,000 yards receiving. Just for the sake of this, let's just look at what Charles Woodson, his college receiving yards were in his time at Michigan, the year he won the Heisman Trophy. Hold on. Where's his rushing receiving yards? There we go. 231 was his receiving yards total with 2 touchdowns. Yeah, it happens. And you can't, and the thing is as well, you can't compare other schools to Colorado and say, well, they're not retired. They're run by different people, and they don't need to retire numbers. No one needs to retire any number. Like, I didn't hear people bitching up a storm about Nick Collison getting his number retired with the Thunder. Yeah, he was there for a long time, but Nick Collison All due respect, Iowan, love him. Did he play a game the last 5 years in the NBA? I have no idea. Same with Udonis Haslem down with Miami. Those two, the Heat literally retired Michael Jordan's jersey. I've heard people complain less and less about those things than Shedeur Sanders getting his number retired. I've seen more people bitch and moan about Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders and all that stuff. I wouldn't want to be a part of Deion. What about the Mannings? Shedeur Sanders, I don't think, as far as I've been made aware, is not going to refuse to play for any team. I remember Eli and his family saying they're not going to play for the Chargers and kicked up a big hissy fit when the Chargers drafted him first overall anyways. They said, hey, screw you, we're going to draft you anyways. And they traded him to the Giants on draft night. I don't think the Sanders are doing that. Like, if we're going over legacies and what they did in the NFL in regards to dads, we are not talking about Archie Manning and Deion Sanders. But yeah, Archie Manning, he's perfectly fine doing that. Deion, though, we got a real issue with that one. Deion hasn't done it. And anyways, Deion hasn't even done anything. I would love to know what people are so mad about Colorado and Deion about. I would love to know, because I've never actually heard a defined reason on why people don't like Colorado, apart from we don't like Deion, and I don't know why, because I haven't really seen anything that says why we should or should not like Deion. I'm neutral to the whole thing. Deion's the greatest defensive back of all time, and he did a really good job at helping turn around Colorado, but I don't know what the big deal is around this whole hatred towards Shedeur and Deion. Shiloh, yeah, that's a Nepo kid. Shiloh stinks. Shedeur Sanders can play football. Let's not be stupid here. Like act like he wasn't a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. Like, Shedeur Sanders can play football. We just read all the numbers where he ranks in regards to Colorado's single-season career passing numbers. Again, you can make a very strong case that he's the greatest quarterback to ever play for Colorado. And I love Cordell Stewart. Again, / that's the greatest name of all time. But let's stop pretending to get mad about something that you really do not care about. I do not care who retires their numbers. That's their own viewer discretion. Do I think the Thunder should have retired Nick Collison's number or the Heat retire Udonis Haslem's number? No, I don't. I think it's cool. I understand why they did it, but no, what? No. Like, you can retire whose ever number you frickin' want. It does not have any bearing on my life. But when people start making up a hissy fit and throwing out stats that don't matter, who cares? Like, it really does not matter if they retired his number or not. And it has nothing to do. Shedeur Sanders throwing for 4,000 yards and setting a new Colorado single-season passing record has nothing to do with his dad being Deion Sanders. I can promise you that much. I can really promise you that. Because if that was the case, he'd also be the first overall pick in the draft, which he's not. And he's going to play for the Browns, the Giants, the Saints, the Steelers, whoever the hell drafts him, because they have made zero indications that he's going to sit out. And if that happens, crazy. That'd be absolutely crazy it happens. But I'm so tired of this fake hatred towards Colorado when no one even knows why they hate him. Everybody hated Travis Hunter during the season and said it was the most rigged Heisman Trophy race of all time. And no one can tell me why. Everybody just says shit. They don't have anything to actually back up it. It's just we're just going to start saying it. And if we say it enough times to get enough likes on Twitter, then it's going to become true. I don't care if Florida hasn't retired Tebow's number. That is no relation to what this is about. There's no concept. It's not connected at all. What Florida does not have anything to do with what Colorado does. It doesn't. Like, who the hell cares? Oh my God. I think it's funny. I do think it's funny. Man. Like, the Wizards, is 23 retired by the Wizards? I guess I don't even know. I haven't even checked that. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody wear 23 on the Wizards. Can't say I've watched a lot of Wizards basketball recently, but let's see. Retired number. 23 is not retired by the Wizards, retired by the Heat. Why? I guess I never really even thought about that if the Wizards had 23 retired. Does anybody wear 23 right now? I kind of like seeing who, like, who wears the numbers of past greats. Like, I always think that's kind of funny. I get the argument of people like, I'm not for retiring jerseys. That makes sense. Like, there's going to be a point in time where you got to stop retiring them. Like, there's got to be a point. Like, I kind of like where, like, teams pass down a jersey number. Like, LSU does the 18 thing. Like, the team leader or something gets to wear 18. The star player wears number 7. Like, that stuff's kind of cool. I like that. Or Syracuse did that with Ernie Davis, Jim Brown, and Floyd Little. Like, they all wore number 44. Now it's retired, but that was really cool when they did all that stuff. It was like, oh, these great players follow each other. It's like a big burden, but it's like, no, it's kind of cool. I kind of like it. But then you have some scrub where you're like, no, you can't do that. You can't. No, you can't do that anymore. You can't do that. That's we're crossed the line here. This line has been crossed. It's a habitual line stepper. When you let bad players wear great numbers. Like, he's not a bad player, but Desmond Trufant wearing number 21 in Atlanta was always kind of funny. It's not anything about Desmond Trufant. He was not a bad player, but I just think it was kind of funny seeing him wear number 21. What's another example I could think of, like an NFL team where a player's like, that's wearing a number of a great player? I mean, Steve Largent and Jerry Rice, that was kind of an upgrade because they unretired Steve Largent's number to give to Jerry Rice when he went to Seattle. What is a example? Oh, Irv Smith Jr. wearing 84 in Minnesota. Oh, my God. Irv Smith Jr. wearing number 84 with the Vikings is always going to be funny. That is one of the funniest things ever. Is that. That's hilarious. If you don't find that one ironic and that doesn't boost you to retire Randy Moss's number, I don't know what will, because that is insane. That might be the worst one that I can think of off the top of my head. Let's keep trying to think of some other teams that have done so, that have had like a trash player. Irv Smith, I remember Troy Aikman gushing over Irv Smith one time watching Monday Night Football, and it just never clicked. It never clicked. And the fact that he was allowed to wear 84 that entire time, I didn't see anything wrong with it. Like like Jokic and Melo in Denver. Like, that one's fine because Jokic improved upon the legacy that Melo had. Like, Jokic's one of the greatest players in NBA history, wearing Melo's jersey. And there's people that have a problem that they let him wear number 15 and stuff. But hey, shit happens. I don't think they were really expecting a second-round draft pick who was taken during a Taco Bell commercial would pass up arguably their greatest ever player. So I don't think that was really on the cards for them. But hey, shit happens. They'll retire both numbers eventually. Melo and Jokic will get their numbers jointly retired. That stuff happens all the time. But let's think. Let us think here. Will they retire 15 right after Mahomes retires, or will they let some scrub wear number 15 for a little bit? Just like take the magic off of it for a short while. Just for a little bit. Just to get it off a little bit. Now I'm struggling a little bit. Oh, Younghoe Koo wearing number 7. That one's kind of funny in Atlanta. I know he doesn't wear number 7 now because Bijan Robinson wears it, which is a little bit more respectable. But a kicker wearing Mike Vick's number, that one was kind of funny. that was funny. I'm trying to think of any others that I can really think of. Is 22 has to be retired to Dallas? Has to. 88, CeeDee Lamb wears that. See, that one's cool. Like Drew Pearson, Michael Irvin, Dez Bryant, CeeDee Lamb. Like that one's fun. Like that's what I'm talking about. We're like, that stuff's fun. That stuff's fun. Let's keep thinking. I want to Irv Smith and Randy Moss. That's the worst one I can think of right now. I'm trying to think of another one that's like even worse. I know Clay Matthews was pissed when the Packers gave Rashawn Gary number 52. I know he was really mad about that, but it's like, come on, man. Like when people are trying to make like Joe Theismann giving up number 7 for Dwayne Haskins when number 7 wasn't even retired. It was like, why are people making this a deal? Like, this shouldn't be that big of a deal. Joe Theismann doesn't even have his number retired, but we're having him ask Joe Theismann for his number. That one was kind of funny. Let us see. No one's worn number 12 since Brady. That would have been funny if like someone tried to sneak wearing number 12 in New England. That would have been really funny, like for our practice number or something. I know someone wore 32 for the Bills for a little bit, but I can't remember who it was for OJ, but I don't remember who it was. Talk about Aaron Rodgers taking number 12 with the Jets, even though that's retired for Joe Namath, obviously. Am I out? I think I might be out for players with numbers that are legendary that got worn by scrubs. Oh, who wears 13 with the Rams? That one was weird, if I remember correctly. Who wears 13 with the Rams? Because that one still surprised me that 13's not retired for the Rams. Let's see. Scroll down a little bit. I'm on their Wikipedia page now because I gotta figure out who wears number 13 on the Rams. Is it anybody? Stetson Bennett. That's what it was. Stetson Bennett is wearing Kurt Warner's number. That doesn't make sense. I know he's 7. I know he's like 2 years younger than Kurt Warner, but it's still weird to see somebody wearing Kurt Warner's number on the team where he won a Super Bowl and MVP and stuff like that. But I mean, like, I understand, like Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, like, I understand those guys. Orlando Pace not having his number retired, that one's kind of interesting. I don't really understand that one all too much, but yeah, he's not on here yet, but he will be. Does anyone wear number 76? Nope, doesn't look like it. So is it one of those honored situations where like the number's honored, so you can't wear it, but it's not technically retired? Orlando Pace. Oh, it says something about I don't know. I'm not gonna read it. I'm not reading all that. I don't read that. But that's all my big shtick about this whole retiring number nonsense, because it's everywhere. And everything you tweet about Colorado or everything you say about Colorado, it's just gonna pop off. It just is. Like that's just how it works. It's just gonna go absolutely ridiculous. But a couple things that I want to talk about. We got to talk about the draft, obviously. We talk about Shedeur Sanders. We talk about retired numbers. The draft attendees list got announced. And what I thought was interesting, going into the offseason, the NFL apparently, don't know how true this is, said that they were going to invite players that were expected to go in the top 10. So they didn't have a lot of waiting around this year. That was what the report was. Again, no idea how true that report actually was, but that was out there. But right now, the NFL draft attendees are Tyler Booker, Giad Campbell, Will Campbell, Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart, Matthew Golden, Mason Graham, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, Will Johnson, Ted McMillan, Jalen Milroe, Josh Simmons, Malachi Stark, Shamar Stewart, Cam Ward, Michael Williams, and Josh Hairston. Those are your guys going to the draft. Or Maxwell Hairston, not Josh Hairston, not the second baseman from the Pirates. That's Harrison anyways. But regardless. Maxwell Hairston. So that's 18 players. I can tell you this. I'm no mathematician, but I don't think there's going to be 18 players taken within the first 10 picks of the draft. I could be wrong. I could be very, very wrong there, but I don't think that's going to take place. Out of these guys that are going to the draft, my best guess is that Will Campbell goes top 10, Abdul Carter goes top 10, Mason Graham goes top 10, Travis Hunter goes top 10, Ashton Jeanty goes top 10, Cam Ward goes top 10, and there's a chance Shamar Stewart goes top 10. So there's about 6 to 7 players on this list that are going to the draft that have a chance to go to the top 10. Players that might not go in the first round at all, Tyler Booker, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, and that's it. So 3 out of this 18 might not go in the first round at all. So that's a really interesting situation that we found ourselves in with the NFL draft attendees, because no one wants I can't see why the NFL wouldn't want like a Will Levis, Aaron Rodgers, Brady Quinn type situation. Like that's you're watching a dude who's been told he's the greatest thing since sliced bread his entire life, getting his dreams crushed on national television as every single team keeps passing on him. Like that, if that doesn't scream like drama and eyes and all of that stuff and ratings, I don't know what does. So I don't know why the NFL would be trying to do that. That seems like the NFL loves to do. So I don't know. I do not know. Shedeur Sanders not going to the draft. Unlikely to go number 2 to the Browns or number 3 to the Giants. The Saints are the most intriguing team at this point in time because Derek Carr, the team's current starting quarterback, is now dealing with a shoulder injury that threatens his availability for this upcoming season. Carr is weighing his options, including the possibility of surgery. So the need for a quarterback for the New Orleans Saints at number 9 just went through the freaking roof. So will it be Shedeur? Will they take Jackson Dart later? Will they take Tyler Shuck? Will they take Jalen Milroe? Who the hell knows what they're going to take? But it's just very interesting. It's an interesting time in the NFL and the NFL draft and stuff like that. But yeah, real quick, I'm gonna quick notes this because I want you to read the blog post, and we're gonna have a video out for it on Saturday. So make sure you stay tuned and subscribe to the YouTube channel for that. Logan Blackman Show on YouTube. I've got my final pre-draft quarterback rankings. And I know we did our final quarterback rankings after the season ended, after the bowl games and everything, which I appreciate everybody that checked out that. But this one, I ranked it through 15. And I added videos for 15 different quarterbacks to tell you what I really think about this class. Because you can go like the top 10 and stuff, but I want to go 15 so we can get a little bit more of a natural flow in this thing. And it was hard to figure out the last spot. Last spot was the most difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. The last pick was the hardest, and I picked Graham Mertz from Florida. The conversation at 15 was between Graham Mertz and Brady Cook from Missouri. And Brady Cook is an interesting one. I thought he played very well against Iowa in the bowl game, and I think what was most impressive about that is that most of Missouri's weapons, including Luther Burden, did not play in the bowl game against Iowa. So the fact that he played good, again, I know Iowa's defense was not up to normal Iowa standards, especially in the secondary, but it still was impressive to see him doing as well as he did. He battled injuries throughout the season, only had 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the season with 5 rushing touchdowns in there as well. But he was really the only one I was in consideration there. I mean, like I've seen Hunter Decker's name get thrown out a lot. Remember him from Iowa State, now at Iowa Western. Tommy Mallet, from Montana State, put up some crazy numbers for the Bobcats this year. Donovan Smith from Houston, I'm sure is going to get mentioned. Peyton Thorne from Auburn. Will Rogers. You've got Connor Bazalik from Bowling Green. Like, you've got options here. Ethan Garbers from UCLA. I'm trying to think of, like, more people that we could talk about for this last. Spencer Petras could be in the conversation. I don't know. But Graham Mertz, I think, is an interesting one. Because remember what he did at Wisconsin, that 24 or 20 for 25 game with 5 touchdowns against Illinois? And we thought he was the second coming of Jesus Christ. I think he was the highest rated recruit to ever play quarterback for Wisconsin. And he just never got real solid footing there. Never did. And last season at Florida, he had like 20 touchdowns, only had, I think, 4 interceptions or something like that. And this year, the Miami game happened, got a concussion. DJ Lagway comes in, who's the Gatorade, I think the national Gatorade Player of the Year for high school players. I can't remember if it was national or just in Texas. I can't remember. He came in next game after Graham Mertz was hurt. I can't remember who they played that next game after Miami. But then it started to open a conversation about who's going to be the starter going forward. And they rotated until Graham Mertz tore his ACL against Tennessee. And Lagway took the reins of the starting job. Florida was not very good, but Lagway showed a lot of promise. He's one of the more intriguing quarterbacks to watch out for this upcoming season just because he's so young and so talented. So we're hoping to see a good thing out of him this year. But Graham Mertz, he only played 5 games. He had 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the season. His best game to me was against Mississippi State. He had 3 touchdowns in that game, only had 2 incompletions. Completed, I think, 12 straight passes. I could be wrong on that, and that 12th pass was a touchdown. It was his 3rd touchdown of the game. He also had a rushing touchdown there. Graham Mertz is a good athlete. Nothing like world-beating athlete or anything, but if he needs to make a play off script, he's more than capable of doing that. He's very capable of making a play off script. He's no problem doing that. He doesn't have necessarily like the biggest arm in the world, but he can make those layered passes. The problem is when his accuracy starts to wane a little bit. I mean, I think he's a good decision maker. I think he doesn't put the ball in harm's way as much as he did at Wisconsin. I think that's a big step in that right direction. But when he's forced to look to the next receiver, that's where you kind of start to look at his accuracy start to wane a little bit, and that's the scary thing. Like, how are you going to move to your next progression if you're locking onto the one guy and you're hitting him, but then if he's not there, what are you going to do after that? So that's the big question regarding Mertz. But I think he's talented. He's nothing like world beating or anything, but he's the last one here. And then 14, 13, and 12 are interesting ones because I'm not gonna set them into one specific spot yet. But we had Max Brosmer from Minnesota, Cam Miller from North Dakota State, and Seth Hennigan from Memphis. Now, this is kind of intriguing. Cam Miller and Seth Hennigan are the two of only 3 quarterbacks in this entire list that played every single year of their collegiate career at one college. Jalen Milroe, is the other one, at Alabama. Cam Miller played at North Dakota State every single year of college. Seth Hennigan played every single year of his college career at Memphis. Max Brosmer almost did that at New Hampshire, and he transferred his final season at Minnesota. We'll start with Hennigan. We'll start with Seth Hennigan here because he's the middle of the guys here in last name order. He is the model of consistency. He just is. A model of consistency. Like, he played for the same head coach and the same offensive coordinator all 4 years of college. All 4 years of college. And he is, like, we're talking about consistency, 41 consecutive games with a passing touchdown. That is second all-time, with Marcus Mariota. 41. And he has, the thing is, it's kind of interesting, he doesn't really have, like, any real elite traits, which is what will get him lower down on the draft board. But this dude, he makes plays. He just does. He's not, like, the most electrifying athlete in the world, but he can make plays on the ground when he's required to. Like at the comment, he ran a 4.76, which is not slow. He had 190 yards rushing this year. He had 60-something yards against West Virginia in the bowl game, which I thought he played great in. Like, West Virginia, in Big 12 standards, did not have the greatest defense of all time. But for Memphis, coming in from the American Athletic Conference to do what they did against West Virginia, score 42 points, with Seth Hennigan having 2 passing touchdowns in this game and making numerous throws to Rock Taylor down the sideline up the field to get them down to scoring range, whether it be field goals or touchdowns. He just made a lot of great throws throughout the course of the game. There was one play, my favorite play of the game against West Virginia. They did a little RPO where it just looked like a standard read option without the P, RO. And DN crashed super hard. And he pulls to the right, and he goes around. The corner crashes extremely hard. And by the time the safety realizes it, Hennigan's already thrown the ball, and I've always struggled saying his name. Blakumsey, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, is gone. Now, he did get caught from behind, but he got 89 yards down the field, got stopped at the 1-yard line. And then Memphis ended up scoring a play later. But that play is awesome. They tried to run it earlier in the game when he rolled that to his left. He faked it down the field like he was going to throw it, but the corner stayed attached to the receiver, so he never really had an opportunity to do so. But that corner crashed, and the safety was moving down as well, and right with Hennigan threw the ball, receiver's gone. So that was one of my favorite plays to watch from the bowl games, from his bowl game this year, and against Tulane as well. Like, he had some big performances. At UTSA, he put up a massive amount of yards. But if you look at the defenses in the American Athletic Conference, Tulane ranks second in regards to passing defense. It was a ranked game on the road trying to get their 10th win of the season. And he didn't put up insane numbers in this game. He only had 218 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. Did a lot of checkdowns, a lot of taking what the defense gives him. But one thing Hennigan does better than a lot of quarterbacks, he's able to shuffle around the pocket really well. His pocket awareness is some of the best out of every quarterback in this draft class. Yes, I'm including the top guys in there as well. He has very good pocket awareness. So a lot of these plays that I put in here from the Tulane game is him shuffling around the pocket and taking what the defense gives him. Like, he's very good at that. And he took 4 sacks in this game as well. Like, just because he's great at moving around the pocket does not mean he's not immune to taking sacks. It's going to happen. But he's just very smart with how he operates there. He's a very good timing thrower, often throwing before receivers have even come out of their break, which I think is a very good trait to have. The same could be said for Brosmer as well, up in Minnesota. Now, he's not a great athlete out there. He has negative something yards rushing this year. He did not put up insane numbers of yards here. But this is where it's fun with Brosmer and other quarterbacks that come from these styles of offenses. He went to an offense in Minnesota that's going to want to run the football. PJ Fleck's always been a guy that wants to establish the run, and he's coming from a place in New Hampshire where he led the FCS in passing yards. To go from that to Minnesota you've got to adjust a little bit. And Brosmer did. And Brosmer does not have a big arm. He doesn't. He's not the biggest guy in the world either. I think he's like 6'1" or something like that. He's literally as big as me. I think he's like 6'1", 215. Like, I'm a little smaller than that now, but he's about my size. But what I like about Brosmer, he's got an insanely quick release. Insane. Like, I'm talking about like Quinn Ewers level of quick release here. Like, comparatively to all the other quarterbacks in this class, I would say Ewers and Brosmer have the two quickest releases on here. He is not afraid, though he doesn't have the biggest arm, he's not afraid to throw the balls in tight windows. He's not afraid to do that at all. Now, that can lead to some interception. There we saw a game against Penn State where he tried to fit a ball in there, and he was just late on it. He was just late on the throw, ended up being an interception. Like, it's not great at those types of situations, but when everything's clicking and he's able to get those passes off, the lack of arm strength, or perceived lack of arm strength, I guess you could say, is null and void when he's able to hit those throws in rhythm. He's not a great ad-libber. That's the difference between him and Seth Hennigan. Hennigan can make more plays off script. He doesn't really throw on the run, but he can make plays with his legs if needed to. Like the RPO thing that I talked about before with Hennigan, that was a designed play. It was designed to do that. It wasn't just Hennigan thinking on the fly and going like, oh, okay, I'm going to throw this because he's open. No, that's not what he was doing. That was the play design. We've seen him run. The Seahawks used to run it all the time with Russell Wilson. Like, that's just what happens. But so he's not really like breaking out and running, but when he does do the RPO, the read option stuff, he's able to break off big runs because no one's really expecting him to pull it. And when he does, everybody's bit on the running back, so he's got free 5 to 10 yards. Brosmer's not going to do that. And Brosmer, when he does have to step in the pocket, he can deliver strikes down the field. And when everything's linked up, and he's a very anticipatory thrower as well, that quick release helps him a lot. And in games against Penn State, against Maryland, the Maryland game, he was damn near perfect. Like, he went 26 for 33, 324 touchdowns, no picks. He didn't even get sacked in that game. Like, that's the kind of games you like to see. I know Maryland's not the greatest team of all time and stuff like that, but it's still fun. Against Penn State with Abdul Carter constantly at his face, he was still able to put forth a good performance, and they almost won the game. Almost won the game. He had a pass, who was it to? Elijah Spencer, where Spencer gets stopped around the 5-yard line. Like, if he doesn't get stopped at that point, what's to say Minnesota doesn't go on to win that game? They get stopped for a field goal. So maybe that game's a little bit different. Maybe we look at Penn State's season a little bit differently if that happens. But it didn't, and Penn State ended up winning the game 26-25. But quick release for Brosmer, great pocket awareness from Seth Hennigan and Cam Miller. The North Dakota State things, that's going to scare people. That's going to scare people. FCS quarterbacks are always scary, especially when they're coming from a team like North Dakota State where they're so much more dominant than everybody else. Like, that's the big thing, is that North Dakota State rarely has problems in the FCS. Even though they're in the toughest conference in the FCS, in the Missouri Valley Football Conference, they still wipe the floor with about 75% of the conference. South Dakota State's a tough match. South Dakota's an insanely tough match as well. Like, there's tough games in there. North Dakota doesn't make things easy for them. UNI tries every once in a while to make things tough for them, but at the end of the day, North Dakota State's just too damn talented. Like, Gray Zabel is going to be a first-round draft pick this year. He played left tackle there. He's going to play guard or center in the NFL. Bryce Lance, yes, that Lance, brother of Trey Lance, he's going to be a very good receiver next year as well. So, Cam Miller from Iowa, Solon, Iowa, not the biggest guy in the world. Again, all themes here with these three guys. Not the biggest dude. 6'1", probably 210, but the dude's a baller. The dude's a football player. He's a coach's kid. Same with Seth Hennigan as well, which Seth Hennigan getting the starting job in high school over his older brother, that's pretty crazy. But Cam Miller, he's just a baller. Like, he's not like the most insane like Jalen Milroe level athlete here, but he can make you pay on the ground. And he will. You look at the national championship game against Montana State. It is the easiest 63-yard touchdown you'll ever see in your life. Like, he could have walked it into the end zone. That's how easy of a touchdown was. It ran right up the freaking middle. Like, untouched, unbothered throughout the entire course of the touchdown play. I don't know how it happened. I don't know how you allow that to happen, but it happened. And he doesn't have, like, the biggest arm in the world, but what he lacks in arm strength, he, again, can throw people open. He's very smart with where he throws the football. He does not put the ball in harm's way, rarely ever. This past season, he only had 4 interceptions. He had 33 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And this is what we talked about before with Brosmer to a certain extent with the run-first offense. But North Dakota State is the run-first offense in the FCS. North Dakota State is a team that wants to run it right down your throat, and they do not care. They want to pile drive you with the ground game, and Cam Miller in the run game, that's what he's going to do. And this past season, North Dakota State set new career highs in passing yards, passing touchdowns, I think a career low in interceptions, regards to the season where he actually played a decent amount, and they won a national championship. Like, Cam Miller is going to be a very, very good get. I think all three of these guys are very, very good candidates to be the quote-unquote Brock Purdy of this draft class. I think Hennigan fits that moniker a little bit more than the other two do, but I think that the other two guys, they have a lot of experience. Cam Miller at one singular school, not the same coaches and stuff, but same school. Brosmer has a lot of experience at New Hampshire, good experience at Minnesota, made some good throws. Like, Brosmer's not afraid to make any throw. He may not have the arm of Milroe or Cam Ward, but he's not afraid. He ain't pussy. He's good. He's going to push the envelope a little bit. But, yeah, those are three guys in there. Number 11, Curtis Rourke. Curtis Rourke is the best back shoulder thrower out of anybody in this class, by far. It's not even close. Not even a conversation to be had here. The problem is he's not very mobile. And he's coming off a torn ACL, which he hurt early last season, played the entire season on torn ACL. But if you give him time to throw, he will absolutely tear you up. He will. 29 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, finished, I think, 8th or 9th in the Heisman Trophy race this year, which is insane for a quarterback coming from Indiana. Like, yeah, Curtis Rourke's a very, very good quarterback. The mobility will hurt him in the process, but he's 6'5". Like, if you're building a pocket passer, if you were drafting a quarterback in 2001, Curtis Rourke would probably be the guy you try to get. Like, that's the kind of quarterbacks teams are looking for. 6'5", rocket arm, or not rocket arm, but a good arm, great back shoulder thrower, not the most athletic guy in the world, knee problems. That's what you're looking for in a quarterback in the early 2000s. And it's just a sign of the times. But Curtis Rourke's very good. We've talked about him ad nauseum throughout the course of the season. But he's at number 11. The top 10, I have Dylan Gabriel at 10. Dylan Gabriel is somebody who, we're talking about consistency, not necessarily from the same program, but in regards to, it doesn't matter where you put him, he's going to make plays for you. Whether it's at UCF, Oklahoma, Oregon, there's a 90% chance he's going to be the best player on the football field. Like, that's how good of a career he had while at all those schools. He's the joint all-time passing touchdowns leader, I think, with Case Keenum. He's second all-time in passing yards or something like that, too. I might have had those flipped around, but regardless, he's just a gamer. He's 5'11". He's a lefty quarterback. This dude should not be as good as he is, but he is. And he doesn't play like he's 5'11". He plays bigger than that. Like, if you look at the game against Penn State, the Big Ten Championship game, he's standing in the pocket against one of the better pass rushers in college football and is not really afraid or flacked to deal with the whole situation. And I'm talking about, like, Penn State's whole team here. Like, he'll stand tall in the pocket, though it's really hard for him to do so. He's not very big. He can stand tall in the pocket and deliver throws down the field. He does not have a strong arm, like, comparatively to some of the other quarterbacks here, but he's very accurate. He's very smart on where he puts the football. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. There's not a lot of shit you could throw at him that he hasn't already seen. Again, he's played football in 3 different conferences. He has seen literally every single defensive scheme, every single defensive style you could possibly throw at him. And I saw people comparing him to Bo Nix last year. Just because he played at Oregon, has played in college since Obama, that's not something that we're going to look at and go like, oh yeah, that's Bo Nix. They're not the same player at all. Bo Nix is bigger. Bo Nix is more mobile. Bo Nix has got a bigger arm. Like, there's not really comparisons between the two, apart from they played a lot of college football throughout their time. But Dylan Gabriel's a good quarterback. Very good quarterback. He comes in at 10. Quinn Ewers is at 9. He's at number 9 here. I get scared sometimes when Quinn Ewers throws the football. Like, I don't know where it's going to go. And for a guy that he's the greatest high school prospect, I think, ever on 24/7 Sports. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure he's the highest rated high school prospect ever, at least from the quarterback position. And Ohio State, was never going to play over C.J. Stroud. He just wasn't. And his first year at Texas, he was kind of chubby, had the stupid mullet, and got hurt against Alabama. Next year he comes in, lost a lot of weight, lost the mullet, And we saw an improvement from him. And there was going to be that expectation this year that he was going to take that next step and he was going to be that guy this year. And against Michigan, when we all thought Michigan was a little bit better than what they were, we were like, oh shit, yeah, Ewers is here. Like, that was his best game of the year, was against Michigan. Week 3 or whatever, week 2 or 3. On the road in Ann Arbor. But the rest of the season, he battled injuries again, which is something he's done throughout the course of his collegiate career. But the thing that scares me with Ewers is that, yes, he has the arm, the quick release and all that stuff. He is very poised in the pocket. He's a lot more mobile than he was when he first stepped on the campus at Texas, which I think is a credit to him as well. But it feels like when he has one turnover, there's one that's not far from. There's not one far behind, another one far behind. Like, I think the last 5 or 6 games of the year, he had an interception. Like, it just seems like they keep stacking on top of each other as they move on. And I think he's very scheme dependent. I don't think he's a kind of guy that can stand back there and read the entire. I think he's like the quick release, the crossing routes, the quick throws. I think that's where he excels. And I think you look at Miami, you look at San Francisco as teams that are prime examples of that. Unfortunately for him, they've got quarterbacks that one is signed to a long-term deal and one will soon be signed to the long-term deal. So those 2 spots are gone. So it's a matter of adjusting from that point. I don't know where he'll go after that, but that's where my concern is with him. I can't see him in an offense that doesn't have that that scheme around it, if that makes sense. So I'm intrigued to see what he does at the next level, but I have him at number 9. Number 8, I have Riley Leonard. And you could say, Logan, Riley Leonard is I'll tell you that Riley Leonard is insanely raw. But here's the thing. I have the same feeling watching Riley Leonard throw as I do Quinn Ewers. But the difference is, I don't need to worry about Riley Leonard, A, getting hurt, or B, having interceptions or turnovers stack on top of each other. It doesn't really happen. I'm not saying he's like null and void to doing that, but Riley Leonard does not really force the ball into tough situations too often. Like, there was a stretch during the middle portion of the season where I'm not going to say any stats because I don't have them written down, so I'm not going to say anything because I don't want it to be too insanely wrong here. But Riley Leonard's one of the toughest SOBs in college football. And unlike Quinn Ewers, Riley Leonard went into college thinking he was going to be a basketball player. Not like he went to Duke. He got a scholarship to play football at Duke, but he was trying to be a basketball player. He wasn't trying to be a football player. He's still raw in regards to this whole situation. He's been playing quarterback at a D1 level, or at a high level, for 4 years, like focusing on being a quarterback. I think he wanted to be a basketball player. He's pretty much said he wanted to be a basketball player. And he ended up being a football player. And not only that, he freaking started as a true freshman at Duke. It was very key in helping turn Duke's football fortunes around. Yes, Daniel Jones was also important in doing that, but Riley Leonard, he got more people to watch Duke, especially after they beat Clemson week 1 2 years ago. And then transferring to Notre Dame in a run-first offense. So what are you talking about? This is, again, why I like Leonard. We're talking about a guy in Leonard who's in a run-first offense, and then when the run game's not working, now we're going to ask you to throw the football, and it works. You look at that Ohio State game. That first drive of the game, he ran the ball. Him himself ran the ball 9 times. Latter parts of the game, he made throws that helped Notre Dame claw their way back. They didn't end up winning the game against Ohio State, but he made some big throws to help get them back to a respectable spot in that game. Ewers is in a very pass-happy offense that is very quarterback-friendly. Leonard's not. So I'm going to take the guy in Leonard, who I think has one of the highest ceilings in this draft class. The deep ball still needs work. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but at Duke, they bring in Henry Bellin to go in and throw the deep balls in halves. Like, Leonard's got a very strong arm, but that deep ball accuracy just wasn't there. It's gotten better at Notre Dame, but he just wasn't in a spot where he's going to be asked to throw the football a shit ton. Ewers was. Ewers is the guy that was going to throw the ball over the field. At least that's what you would expect from Quinn Ewers to do. And, yeah, I'm excited to see what Riley Leonard does at the next level. The comparisons to Josh Allen, I think, are a little bit too out there, but I understand it to a certain extent. But he comes in at 8. Number 7 is Kyle McCord, And I've contemplated actually putting Riley Leonard above Kyle McCord, and I might end up doing that anyways, because Kyle McCord's not a great athlete. He's not. And Kyle McCord, this is another thing where I get kind of nervous from quarterbacks that come from pass first or pass happy offenses. Kyle McCord threw the ball 592 times this year. 592 times. And before you say, like, oh, Logan, Ewers and Riley Leonard, they're only like 40 pass attempts off each other. Leonard played 13, or how many games? 15 games, 16 games? And played every game. He didn't miss a single game. Ewers did not play the national championship game and missed time during the regular season. So you can't, I'm not saying anybody's doing this to me right now, but if you're going to look at the numbers and say, like, oh, they're not that far off in attempts, Ewers missed a lot more time and didn't play as many games as Riley Leonard did this year. So I just want to keep that in point. But Kyle McCord led the nation in passing yards this year. Kyle McCord set a new ACC single-season passing record this year. The problem is, this is where my concerns come in, is when you're in a pass-happy offense, how much are you asked to do? What are you doing that which really translate? Because there's not going to be an offense in the NFL that passes the ball 70% of the time. And that's what Syracuse does. LaQuint Allen is a very solid running back, but they pass the ball about 70% of the time. And Kyle McCord threw 34 touchdowns a year. You look at the game against Miami, you look at the game against Washington State in the bowl game. 2 very, very good games for him. 2 very, very good games. But then you have games like Pitt, where you have 0 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, I think 3 pick sixes, if I remember correctly. And I give Kyle McCord a lot of credit because I think he only threw 1 interception the last few games of the year after that Pitt game. He threw either 0 or 1 interception. I don't remember how many he actually threw, but it's not far off from 0. And it's either 1 or 0. Maybe 2. I don't know. I know it's not more than 2. But he can make those throws. He doesn't have like the biggest arm in the world. He's not the biggest guy in the world. I think he was like 6'2" or something like that. But to see what he did at Ohio State, where he was kind of the scapegoat with the Buckeyes, to now going to Syracuse and breaking all these records and setting all these records and stuff like that, it's kind of crazy to see. And I'm intrigued to see how that translates because, again, those 70% passing teams scare me a little bit when translating to the next level. I don't know if it does for you, but that's how it works for me. Number 6, I have Will Howard. Will Howard, I think it just comes from being the Buckeyes quarterback because C.J. Stroud got dealt the same hand where it was like, this dude's shit, we need to bench him, we need to do all this stuff. And Kyle McCord was that last year. It was Will Howard this year. Like the game against Oregon in the regular season with the slide, if he slides a half second earlier, they have a chance to win that game. And maybe we're looking at the season differently because if they don't lose that game to Oregon, maybe they don't absolutely pull the pants down of Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Like, maybe that game doesn't happen the way it does. But I thought it was funny. They were trying to make fun of Roy McIlroy, Michigan fans, which Michigan fans have been some of the most annoying football fans I've ever seen this offseason. In regards to, we beat Ohio State. You lost to us still. Who cares? They won the national championship. I don't really think they care all too much that they lost to you. I mean, they do, obviously. They don't want to lose to Michigan ever. It's the game. It's the biggest rivalry in college football. But they still won the national championship game. So quit talking about that you beat them. Cool. You won 8 games this year. Now, go have fun with Bryce Underwood and have your fun this year. We'll see how you do against Ohio State. We'll see how that goes this year, but try to talk about Roy McIlroy when he almost choked away the Masters with a picture of Will Howard. And then Herb Kirkstreet, said they both ended up winning the playoff. Self-own. It's like, yeah, you did kind of self-own yourself there. But Will Howard, I think, is an interesting story because he was very up and down throughout the course of the regular season. And I think Ohio State really were as well. Like, you look at some of the games they played, and you're like, can this team, like, get going? Like, why does it feel they're struggling to move through these types of games? And hold on, I forgot I was going to bring that part up. I'm trying to get their schedule pulled up. Because there were moments last year where you look at Ohio State, like Akron, prime example, against Akron. They're up 17-3 at halftime. Against Akron. The Zips. The Akron Zips. Yes, the Akron Zips. A team that finished 4-8 this year. They're up 17-10 at halftime. Like, and you look at the game against Iowa. They struggled early in that game. At halftime, it was 7-0. They were begging Iowa to actually come in there and upset them, and then the second half happened, and then we don't need to talk about that. Then you lost to Oregon. You beat Nebraska 21-17. 21-17 was the score in that one. The spread was 25.5. That was the spread. Ohio State didn't even score 25 points in that game, let alone beat them by 25 points. Then you go to Penn State. You beat Penn State. That was a fun game. Will Howard fumbled going into the end zone on one play, but you ended up winning that one. Northwestern at Wrigley Field. It was 0-0 going into the second quarter. 0-0 going into the second quarter. 30-point favorites in that game. Then you had the 38-15 game against Indiana. They were down early in that game. They were down early. They were down 7-0 after the first quarter. They didn't take the lead until the 21-second mark in the second quarter. And I know Indiana was the fifth-ranked team at the time and had only one loss to their name. Or had no loss to their name, right? They have a loss at that point? I can't remember. I don't think so. I don't remember. Who knows? But regardless, it was 7-0 at the first quarter down to Indiana at the Horseshoe, and then it was 14-7 with less than 30 seconds to go in the first half. And then you got, obviously, the game against Michigan. And then I don't know what happened, but again, all those inconsistencies throughout the regular season, the Akron game, the Iowa game, the Oregon game, the Nebraska game, the Northwestern game, the Indiana game, the Michigan game, that's 7 games right there where you could look at Ohio State, and go like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you playing with your food? Well, guess what? In the entire playoff, they didn't play with their food one singular time. Beat the piss out of Tennessee. Beat the piss out of Oregon. Beat Texas. Won by double digits thanks to the scoop and score by Jack Sawyer. That game could have been tied so easily, and then it was a two-score game like that. And then you beat up on Notre Dame. Yes, the game ended up being an 11-point game, but it was a little worse than that had Riley Leonard not made some big throws at the end of the game. And then Will Howard making the biggest throw of the season, arguably, to Jeremiah Smith to close the game out. Like, Will Howard, I don't think there's anybody that's helped their draft stock more in any time in a postseason than Will Howard did. Because the thought process of Will Howard going into that playoff was completely different to what we saw in the playoff. You look at the regular season for Will Howard. He had one game where he threw for over 300 yards. That was against Oregon. Which was a great game. Will Howard did this thing this past year where he played up to most of the time to the competition. Like, you look at the game against Oregon, 326 yards passing. So he had one game in the regular season, including games against Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall, where he had 300 yards passing. In the playoff, the first 2 games he had over 300 yards passing against Tennessee and Oregon. And then he had 289 against Texas, and he had 231 against Notre Dame, Like, Will Howard had arguably the greatest run in college football history in regards to the playoff. And I've seen people on Twitter talk about this again, about like Ohio State tweet out like unquestionably the greatest run in playoff history or something, like the greatest run in college football playoff history. No doubt. And the greatest run in college football playoff in college history. And I love how they worded that because it says greatest run in college football playoff history. Or no, it says college football history. I thought it said playoff. Never mind. College history. I mean, that LSU team's still the greatest team I've ever seen. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are a little bit older that say Miami in 01, but that LSU team was the first undefeated team in the college football playoff era, and they beat some seriously good teams on that run as well. But Ohio State, just to play devil's advocate, I'm not saying it is the greatest run of all time. I'm not saying that at all. But just to play devil's advocate, did anybody think when the playoffs started after they lost to Michigan that they would win the national championship game? Did anybody think that? I think most people expected LSU to win the national championship game after they won the SEC championship game. I'm pretty sure like everybody else thought that way. Maybe not in the nature that they did when they beat the piss out of Oklahoma and Clemson, but I think most people were expecting that. I don't think anybody was expecting them to go this far. Most people, I say, would expect them to beat Tennessee, who's at the Horseshoe. Oregon, I know like confidence and motivation stuff's key, but Oregon was a good football team. They were the only undefeated team at the FBS level. That was not going to be an easy game, and they wiped the floor with them. Texas. Could they beat Texas? Who knows? And they go on and do that. And Notre Dame, that once they got to the national championship game, then everybody's like, okay, they'll beat Notre Dame. But no one thought going in that they would win the national championship game. No one. So I could see an argument for that. I'm not going to say that, but I could see an argument. But Will Howard, he made some great plays, some great throws throughout the course of the playoff. He just did. In the game against Texas, he didn't have the greatest statistical numbers. Like comparatively to the Oregon-Tennessee game, he had worse numbers. But I thought he made some really big throws in some tight windows. And yes, he had an interception in that game, but he made some big throws throughout that game. And you look at the game against Notre Dame as well. Big throws and big moments. The Tennessee game, big throws, big moments. The Oregon game, big throws and big. His best throw ever, the best throw of the season, was his throw to Emeka Egbuka against Oregon. That was the best throw of the season by anybody that throughout the year. That throw, I would very much recommend, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up Will Howard's throw against Oregon in the college football playoff second round, quarterfinal, sorry. Go look up that play. Go look up that throw. Because that throw, last year's best throw of the season was J.J. McCarthy against Ohio State. That was the best throw last year. That throw is the best throw this year. Maybe I'm forgetting about one, but that's the best throw. So the past 2 years, J.J. McCarthy against Ohio State, I think it was Roman Wilson who he threw the touchdown to, and Emeka Egbuka against Oregon. I very much recommend you go see that. I saw people talk about like he's going to drop because of his arm strength or something. I think Will Howard's got a fine arm. I think he's good, a very good athlete, can make plays on the ground game. When they need him to run the football, he would run the football. And again, this is why I like quarterbacks that come from these more so, and there's obviously exceptions to every rule, but more diverse offenses in regards to we could go into the game and we can have a completely different game plan than what we did the previous game. Like this game, we could ask you to throw the ball 30 times. Next game, we can ask you to throw it 15. Like I kind of like that. I think Will Howard at Ohio State with Judkins, and I know you could go like Judkins, Henderson, Egbuka, Jeremiah Smith. Like they have so much talent. Carnell Tate. They have so much talent. But if they don't have Will Howard playing like he did, they don't win the national championship game. They don't win a game in that college football playoff. Maybe they beat Tennessee, but Oregon, they don't beat Oregon if he doesn't play like he did. So yeah, he comes in at 6. This is where I get kind of lost here. So 3, 4, and 5, much like we talked about with 13, 14, 15, I don't know what the order is right now. I've changed it probably 4 times. It is Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, and Tyler Shough from Louisville. Those are my 3 guys. All of them offer completely different things. We'll start with Jalen Milroe. Milroe is the most athletically gifted quarterback in this class. It's not really close. If we're talking about just from an overall talent and what they could be, he's probably got the highest ceiling out of everybody in this class. Probably. But his floor is lower than a lot of the other quarterbacks in this class as well. Because he has got the strongest arm and he's the most athletic. Like those 2 factors mean that if you can teach him right and coach him up right, he could definitely be the best quarterback in this draft class. If he gets there, I have no idea. If they try to pigeonhole him and make him a pocket passer in the NFL, he probably won't get to that level. But if you actually let him play and be himself, then guess what? You're going to have a really good quarterback on your hands if you just let him play. Don't try to make him a pocket passer. He's not that. He is too inconsistent throwing the ball in the intermediate portion of the field to be a pocket passer. And I think that's going to grow. He's going to grow with that as time goes on. But you look at that Georgia game. Immense game. Like, if we're talking about individual quarterback performances, that might be the best game we saw from a quarterback all year. Alabama, Georgia. That might be. I'm probably forgetting a performance in there, but that might be the best performance we've seen from a quarterback. Let me know if you can think of another one. But from that level, from what he did in that game, over 100 yards rushing, over 300 yards passing, like 500 yards total offense pretty much. I think he had 4 touchdowns in that game, maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns. Yes, he had an interception, but 3 or 4 touchdowns as well. Like, that was awesome. But then you go to other games. You look at post-Georgia game. And you're asking yourself, like, what the hell happened? What am I looking at here? What kind of quarterback is this? The guy who just had 500 total yards of offense and 4 touchdowns against Georgia, the number 2 team in the nation. Were they the underdogs at home, if I remember correctly? Yeah, they were a 2.5-point underdog at home to the number 2 team in the nation. After that game, he never had more than 2 touchdowns in a game passing. Like, he had one other game where he had 2 touchdowns against Mercer. Since that Georgia game, so with 4 total touchdowns, he threw 1 touchdown. I get 2. I will just keep it 2 passing touchdowns. 2 passing touchdowns. He had 1 against Vanderbilt, 1 against South Carolina, 1 against Tennessee, 0 against Missouri, 0 against LSU, 2 against Mercer, 0 against Oklahoma, 0 against Auburn, 1 against Michigan. So the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games of the year, discounting Mercer because it's an FCS school, it doesn't count. Those last 5 games, discounting Mercer, he threw 1 touchdown. That was against Michigan. Now, he did have a buttload of rushing touchdowns. He had 1 against Missouri, he had 4 against LSU, 1 against Mercer, 3 against Auburn. Like, he had a bunch of rushing touchdowns. He's 20 rushing touchdowns. Broke the single-season Alabama rushing touchdown record for a quarterback, passing Jalen Hurts. But the passing game, he's a quarterback. The consistency levels needs to even out before... I love Jalen Milroe. Him and Riley Leonard are my 2... Him and Cam Ward are my 3 favorite quarterbacks in this class. Those are my 3 favorites. But I am nervous about his consistency in those intermediate areas passing the football. Because he's going to need to do that at the NFL. Those are the money throws. Any quarterback worth their shit can throw a deep ball. How you fit the ball in the middle of the field where everybody's at, between and around different players and defenders, that's where the money is. So I need to see him do that at the next level. And I hope he goes to a system and a team that works with his skill set rather than trying to pigeonhole him into something he's not. That's all I ask for. That's all I ask for. Jackson Dart, we've talked about Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe before. Jackson Dart's last season was a roller coaster in regards to, like, we'd have a game where he'd have 800 yards passing. The next game he might have 120. Like, it was just like, what is happening with this Ole Miss team? Like, you look at the games early on in the year. Like, Ole Miss was tearing apart teams. Like, Georgia Southern, I think they scored 77 points against Georgia Southern or something like that. I could be wrong. I don't remember what their exact numbers were in that game. Hold on. I'm pulling it up. Chill out. 76 against Furman. He scored 52 against Georgia Southern. So 76 against Furman, 52 against Middle Tennessee State, 40 against Wake Forest, and 52 against Georgia Southern. Then they lose to Kentucky. And he had some ball security issues at the end of that game. I'm not saying that he completely lost the ball, but he did fumble it. They didn't recovering it, but he was a little bit wayward with the ball there. Came back against South Carolina. They did the whole, like, how you shoot 20 times and still miss thing. Beat South Carolina. Lost to LSU in overtime. Did not have his greatest game of all time there. Threw 42 passes in that game. Then he rounded off some wins against Oklahoma, Arkansas, beat Georgia, lost to Florida in a rough game where that end of the game just completely capitulated. But I thought he made some ridiculous throws throughout the course of that game. It just sucks that it had to end like that because I thought he played a really good game apart from those throws. And then Mississippi State, you win. Didn't really need to do a lot in that game. Mississippi State, they're not really known for good quarterback games. And then Duke, he just freaking went ballistic. But you look at the regular season, he had 29 passing touchdowns. This is what we did. Remember we did this with Nico. He had 5 against Furman, 4 against Georgia Southern, and 6 against Arkansas, who I think at that time were on their 4th string corners. Like, and all of those, if you watch the Arkansas game back, you will never see an easier 515-yard passing game in your life. It is wide open receivers, deep balls that have 5 yards of separation at least every single time. Like, that's the kind of game that was. He threw for 515 yards and 6 touchdowns. And it was easy. But in those 3 games, he had 15 passing touchdowns. 3 games, he had 15 passing touchdowns. Out of 29. You include the Duke game, he had 19 passing touchdowns in those 4 games. He had 29 on the season. And we talk about Jalen Milroe with that weird stretch that he had after the Georgia game, minus the game against Arkansas, which is an anomaly. 6 touchdowns is crazy. But Kentucky had 1. South Carolina 0. LSU 0. Oklahoma 1. Or LSU 1, sorry. Oklahoma 1. Georgia 1. Florida 2. Mississippi State 1. Like, it's just, there was so many, like, oh my God, this is the greatest game I've ever seen in my life. And then you're like, what the hell is happening here? I don't know. I don't get it. It was confusing while I was watching it, but there's no doubt he's got talent. Jackson Dart's immensely talented. And I get nervous around quarterbacks in Lane Kiffin's system and these styles of offenses as well. And Jackson Dart can move. Jackson Dart's a very, very good athlete. He can make all the throws in the world. He made the Zach Wilson Pro Day throw in the game against Duke. Not exactly, but pretty damn close. Like, he can make all the throws. He's a great athlete, but can he stay consistent? That's all I need to see from him. Not like intermediate throws and stuff like that. Just the ebbs and flows of going like, I have 515 yards one game, and the next game I'm going to have 199. Like that's the ebbs and flows of that. That's where I need to see the consistency in that regard. And then Tyler Shough from Louisville, age and injuries going to be the big conversation piece here. And we've talked about that before. I think we talked about it either last week or 2 weeks ago, the injuries and the age gap and all that stuff. But he can make some great throws. You look at the game against Notre Dame. He had 3 passing touchdowns in the game. They lost the game 31-24, but he made some great plays. He had 1 interception in the game as well, but the ball bounced off the receiver's hands and right into the arms of the defender. He also had a very big run in the game. It was like a 40-something yard run, and he fumbled it, so that's not great, but like he can make all the sidearm throws. He can make throws on the run as well. He's got good size. He's got good arm strength. He's in the Brom offense down there at Louisville, so it should translate, but the thing that a lot of people are going to be concerned about, apart from the age and injuries thing, is that there's a decent amount of play action. That's one of the concerns. There's a decent amount of play action, but again, he can make every single throw on the field. He's been under center more than a lot of the other quarterbacks we've mentioned up to this point. And the game against Boston College, he threw for 332 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. This is a Boston College team that had not allowed a 300-yard passer up to that point in the season. And Boston College was up big like most of this game. They were 20-0 towards the end of the second quarter. They were up 27-10. Like, they were up 90% of the game. They were up 27-10 with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. And Louisville came back and won the game. Like, I want to say this as well. This blog post that I'm making, it's not the quarterback's best games of the season. That's not how you scout players. You don't just look at the best games because everybody looked great. No, you got to have games where you see the most throws, like the most NFL throws, or the throws that you can look at and go, okay, this is something here. Like Jalen Milroe, I have the Alabama-Georgia game, and I have the Oklahoma game where he threw 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. But he still made some good throws throughout the course of that game, barring the interceptions. But I include the Florida game for Jackson Dart, the Florida game and the Duke game. I didn't include the Arkansas game. Because the Arkansas game, again, he's throwing to wide-ass open receivers. I want to see how they react to struggling like that. Like we talked about with Kyle McCord. I didn't include the 0-touchdown, 5-interception game, but you look at games like that and how they bounce back from that and how the rest of the season looks after that. That's what I want to see. I don't want to just see you at your best games. That's not fun. And I have other games included in here as well, but yeah, I think Shough's really, really good. I do. And it took me, I had to go back and watch a little bit because I was like, everybody's talking about Tyler Shough. Did I miss something? And I did. I do apologize on that. That's a blunder on my part. But he's very, very good. And he's definitely in that conversation for QB3. I need to get a definitive spot for them at that point. But number 2 is Shedeur Sanders. Number 1 is Cam Ward. I don't need to talk about those two. You know my thoughts and opinions on Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward at this point in time. I included the Cal game for Cam Ward and the Georgia Tech game. The Virginia Tech game I thought was also an interesting game in there as well. The Duke game's another fun one to watch as well because you see the throw completely across his body thing. And they lost to Georgia Tech. Like, you don't want to see the wins all the time. And I thought he made some great throws throughout the game against Georgia Tech. He just tries a little too hard. This Cam Ward we're talking about, obviously, to be the hero every single time. Or not every single time, but like there's times where it has to be a touchdown. It's like, no, it doesn't need to be a touchdown. It doesn't have to be. Just take the easy play, throw it out of bounds, like the fumble at the end of the game. That's what will happen. But he's a damn good quarterback, easily the best quarterback in this class. Number 1 overall pick. Yeah, a whole 9 yards. We've been saying that since like week 5. It's pretty well documented, my infatuation with Cam Ward. You can even go back to Incarnate Word through the blog post. Tyler Shough, we talked about him when he was at Oregon. So I've got skin in the game with some of these players. And Shedeur, we've already talked about him with the numbers he's put up well at Colorado. accurate quarterback. He doesn't have the arm that Cam Ward does, but he's tough as hell. He's great at rolling out to his left, better than a lot of left-handed quarterbacks going out to their left, which is crazy to say, especially at this point in his career. Like, he's young still in his career. Yes, he was a 4-year starter in college, but he's still young in regards to rolling out to his left with that much consistency. He's very good at it. He does struggle with holding on the ball too long. Like, the offensive line was bad. Let's not get it twisted. The offensive line was terrible. But he still does, he can sometimes be a little slow on releasing the ball. The pick six against Nebraska is a prime example of that, of just being late. And you can see that throughout course of the season where he's just a little bit late. Deep ball is one where he kind of struggles with being a little bit more, needs to get that more tuned up, I guess you could say. But I have no doubt he'll be fine with that. But the Kansas State game was fun. The Utah game was a lot of fun because Utah, at that time, I'm pretty sure Utah had like the number 1 or number 2 total defense or passing defense of the Big 12, and Colorado put 49 points on them, and Shedeur Sanders threw an interception on, like, I think the first play of the game. It was just the first drive. I can't remember if it was the first play or the first drive, but to bounce back from that, throw over 340 and 3 touchdowns, that's pretty cool. That's pretty good stuff. And I think it was kind of funny seeing Colorado throw a bunch of bubble screens because that was their run game. They couldn't establish any sort of run game, so they were like, well, bubble screens will be our run game now. So I thought that was pretty innovative, I guess, if you want to call it that. It was funny, to say the least, but those are my top 15 quarterbacks in the draft. I get a more defined idea of what the rankings will be either tomorrow or today, I guess, Wednesday or Thursday. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Yeah. And with that, I don't really have a lot else to really touch on here. I really don't. Is there any quick hitters here? So tired of seeing Tyler Shuck mock to the Browns. If he gets drafted, this is who they're taking. He's talking about Brandon Weeden. Yeah, Brandon Weeden and Tyler Shuck are not the same quarterback at all. Who's the better quarterback in their prime, Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers? I prefer Brett Favre, but Aaron Rodgers is better. We know that. Brett Favre is one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. Top 5 favorite quarterbacks of all time to watch. But he's not better than Aaron Rodgers. He's just not. I like Brett Favre a lot, but I can't say he's better than Aaron Rodgers or better prime than Aaron Rodgers. Here we go. Which of these quarterbacks deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Russell Wilson, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Matt Stafford, Cam Newton. Deserve Russell Wilson and Eli. I think they're both locks for the Hall of Fame. The other guys, I have no idea. I don't think Cam Newton's a Hall of Famer. Phillip, maybe. Matt Stafford, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer either. And I think Phillip's is the best out of those 3. In my opinion. Could be wrong, but Eli and Russ, they're Hall of Famers. We know that stuff. I do think the conversation around Russ will be interesting once he retires because of this post-Seahawks career with Denver, Pittsburgh, and now New York with the Giants. That's going to be interesting to see how he's talked about. But overall, I think he's a Hall of Famer. And then finally, ranking the Big Ten starting quarterbacks. This is just some random, this CFP report on Twitter. Drew Aller's number 1. Yeah, obviously. We know that. Then we got Julian Sayin from Ohio State, Dante Moore from Oregon, Bryce Underwood from Michigan, Luke Altmaier from Illinois, Demond Williams from Washington, Dylan Raiola from Nebraska, Jaden Maeva from USC, Mark Gronowski from Iowa, Fernando Mendoza from Indiana, Aiden Childs from Michigan State, Billy Edwards Jr. from Wisconsin, Preston Stone from Northwestern, Malachi Singleton from Purdue, Ethan Kaliak-Manis from Rutgers, Justin Martin from Maryland, Joey Aguilar from UCLA, and Zach Pyron from Minnesota. My top 5 will be Drew Aller, probably Luke Altmaier, if we're being honest, based off what we saw. I've never seen Julian Sayin play. I can't say anything about it. If you look at my preseason quarterback rankings, where do I always have the rookies? Dead last. I've never seen Julian Sayin play. Dante Moore barely seen play. We saw him a little bit at UCLA, but apart from that, like he had, I think, 11 touchdowns, like 6 or 8 interceptions that year because he rotated with Ethan Garbers, but talented. Bryce Underwood, he's a freshman. We've never seen him play. Demond Williams, I think's uber talented. I think he's really talented at Washington. I think he fits what they want to do up there. So I'm excited to see what he does. Dylan Raiola, just annoying. That's pretty much my best way I can describe that one. Typical Nebraska quarterback, I guess you could say. You can read into that what you want. Jaden Maeva, I thought he had moments last year. Gronowski, is the most, most accomplished by far on this list, but Iowa's known as the quarterback graveyard at this point. But Gronowski, if anybody's going to turn around, it's Mark Gronowski. You look what he did at South Dakota State. They'd won no national championships. He won 2. They won 6 conference titles. He was the starter for 5 of them. Like, if anybody's going to turn around, it's Gronowski. Fernando Mendoza was really fun at Cal last year. I thought he was going to go to Miami. He's a Miami kid. He went to the same high school as Mario Cristobal, if I'm not mistaken. I thought he was locked to go to Miami. He goes to Indiana, so that should be fun. I didn't think they'd pay out the pocket to get Carson Beck, but hey, Aiden Childs, I think, is a very talented quarterback. Just, again, very up and down. Very up and down. Billy Edwards Jr. had moments at Maryland last year. Had moments, but consistency is going to be the big thing there. At Wisconsin, replacing Tyler Van Dyke. And Preston Stone lost his job to Kevin Jennings at SMU. Put up some good numbers prior to that at SMU, but we'll have to wait and see. We haven't really seen him play in a couple years. Ethan Kaliak-Manis, sick name, but not very good. But it's Drew Aller's far and above the best quarterback in the Big Ten right now. It's just going to be interesting to see who follows in after that. And in regards to the draft next year, right now, it's him and Garrett Nussmeier, in my opinion, as QB1 for next year's draft. Where are some, let's look at some of the other quarterbacks available in next year's draft class, just for argument's sake, since we're talking about quarterbacks for next year. Lenora Sellers, I think, is an interesting quarterback from South Carolina. Arch Manning is going to get talked about a lot. Miller Moss, I mean, going to Louisville, I think is a very good move for him. He just felt like a Louisville quarterback. I think I said that from the jump when he entered the transfer portal about him going there. Connor Wegman at Houston's very interesting, so we'll see how he does after transferring from A&M. Jalen Daniels always going to be in and around there. Sam Levitt at Arizona State is going to be mentioned. Jalen Rayner's at... Oh, wait, yeah, he's always been there. What am I talking about? Never mind. Caden Salter from Colorado. You got Nova Fifita from Arizona. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see how this quarterback class ends up shaking out. Thomas Castellanos, not talking about from an NFL prospect, but I think he'll be fun at Florida State. I do think Castellanos will be fun. I think he fits more of what they want to do rather than DJU did last year. He's more of the Jordan Travis mold than DJU was. Haynes King's an interesting one. Haynes King at Georgia Tech's a very interesting one for next year to keep an eye on for. Let's keep scrolling. Ty Simpson, I'm intrigued to see how he does at Alabama this year. But yeah, the main guys are Drew Aller and Nussmeier. Those are your main guys there. But that's all I've got for you today on this whatever day edition of the Logan Blackman Show. Make sure, again, to follow the different social media accounts I mentioned before. Make sure to check out the blog post, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Make sure to check all those out. Believe in Iowa as well. With that, I've been Logan Blackman. I hope you enjoyed. If you didn't, I sincerely apologize. Try better next time. And I will see you guys later. Peace.